of Education issues the results of the Basic Education Certificate for the year 2014. Syria strongly opposes nominating an Israeli for vice chair of the UN Special Committee on Decolonization. Australian Prime Minister stresses that Australian terrorists fighting in Syria and Iraq would not be allowed to return. About 35 citizens are killed and more than 50 wounded by the terrorist explosion in al-Harra village in Hama countryside. Syrian Arab Army targets terrorists in Aleppo and Idlib. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Yarado Krikorian from the News Center in Damascus. The Minister of Education issued the results of the preparatory and the religious education for the year 2014. During a news conference, the Minister of Education said that the passing rate reached 74.44%, while there were 3,229,002 applicants, as 8 of them achieved complete marks in Damascus, Homs, Hama, and Latakia. Syria's permanent representative to the UN, Dr. Bashar al-Ja'fari, stressed Syria's strong rejection of nominating an Israeli person for the vice chair of the Special Political and Decolonization Committee by the group of Western European and other states.
In a statement during the committee's meeting, al-Ja'fari said that Israel is unqualified to hold a senior position in a committee that basically rejects the Israeli occupation of the Arab territories and condemns its arbitrary practices against the Arab population under the Israeli occupation. Al-Ja'fari pointed out that the vote's outcome proved that Israel was unqualified to hold the post, thanking the countries which voted against this nomination. The Israeli candidate received 74 votes out of 193, as 34 delegations were absent, and 83 delegations expressed their rejection of this nomination through handing white papers or papers written on them Palestine, making the result of the vote in favor of the Israeli candidate equal to 38% out of the total number of the UN General Assembly votes. Al-Ja'fari added that Israel's goal was to obstruct the committee's work in order to serve its own agenda and criminal practices in the occupied territories.
At least 35 civilians were killed and some 50 others were injured, some seriously, as a car bomb exploded in al-Harra village near Al-Ghab plain in Hama countryside. A source at Hama Police Command said that terrorists blew up a truck loaded with about 3 tons of explosive materials, which caused the destruction of a large number of houses and buildings in the village. The village is located west of Al-Madiq Castle, Qalayat Al-Madiq, in Al-Ghab plain, Hama countryside. In Aleppo, Syrian Arab Army unit eliminated a number of terrorists and destroyed their criminal equipment. A military source said that the Syrian Arab armed forces targeted a terrorist group in Old Aleppo, where they destroyed terrorist dens in Hreitan, Al-Layramun, Khan al-Asal, Al-Mansoura and other nearby areas, killing a large number of terrorists. Meanwhile, another Syrian Arab Army unit foiled an armed terrorist group's attempt to infiltrate into Aziza village and killed wounded most of its members. Syrian Arab Army units targeted a hideout for armed terrorist groups in the village of Binnish in Idlib countryside, eliminating scores of terrorists and destroying 3 cars equipped by heavy machine guns. In northern Homs countryside, Syrian Arab Army units restored security and stability to al Hill, breaking the supply line of the armed terrorist groups stationed in Al-Rastan and Tel Bise. Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott said that he would not allow Australian terrorists fighting with the armed groups in Syria or Iraq to return to Australia. He added that more than 100 Australians travelled to Syria and Iraq and became trained killers, referring that those killers would carry out criminal acts in Australia if they return home. Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu said that Russian President Vladimir Putin ordered the Russian forces in the center of the country to be at full alert. Earlier, the press office at the Russian presidency said that Moscow was awaiting a clarification and an apology from Kiev about the Ukrainian bombardment of Russian areas to the south of the country. Finally, on the occasion of the Refugees World Day, UNHCR held a celebration in Damascus.
On the occasion of the World Refugee Day, the UNHCR held a celebration in participation of refugees from several areas of Damascus and its countryside to express their love of life through creative imagery, as children there made puppet shows in addition to percussion shows. Moreover, some women there were able to support their families through producing handcrafts, which were sold during this celebration, while this income of such handcrafts will be due to refugees.
Today is World Refugee Day. It is tomorrow, but we are celebrating it today already to commemorate the plight of refugees all over the world, all the people who have fled their homes due to violence, conflict and persecution. As you know, we have two big programs here. UNHCR is in Syria for many, many years because Syria has been very generously hosting refugees from all over the world and in particular from neighboring Iraq when the crisis there erupted. There are still a good number of refugees inside Syria, even though many have moved on.
This celebration was coincided by opening a center for the UNHCR in Sweden Governorate.
With this, we end our news for today. Thank you for watching. For more details about Syria and the region and to view this bulletin again, you can always visit our website in English, syriaonline.sy. Now to latest business and market news with Nariman Qassam, but after a short break.